Good evening and welcome to the 2023 Southern Boone County Candidate Forum sponsored by the Southern Boone Chamber of Commerce and the Southern Boone Economic Development Council. I'm Vicki Kimna, Assistant General Manager of Boone Electric Cooperative, and I'm happy to be here tonight representing the Southern Boone Chamber and SBDC as your moderator. Tonight's forum is simply meant to help voters make an informed decision when going to the polls on Election Day, which is Tuesday, April the 4th. Neither the Chamber or the SBDC are endorsing any particular candidate in the elections. We are just here to provide a resource for you all at home to get to know the candidates on your ballot. Tonight's forum, we've had kind of a last minute change of plans. We only have Ms. Stephanie Bell representing Ward 2 with us tonight. So I'm going to ask her some questions and she's going to have really as much time as she needs to answer those questions. We're going to start with introductions. So she can introduce herself to all of you at home, and then when we're done with the questions for Ms. Bell, I'll ask City Administrator Kyle Michael, Public Works Director James Creel, and Chief of Police Gabe Edwards to come up and say a few words about the city sales tax issue that's also on your ballot. So this year we have 3 candidates running for 3 seats on the Board of Aldermen for the City of Ashland. In Ward 1, we have Nathan Volkart, Ward 2 is Stephanie Bell, and Ward 3 is David Wilson. All the candidates are running unopposed this year, even though your ballot will show that Lauren Plank is listed as a candidate for Ward 1. Mr. Plank initially filed as an alderman candidate, and then after filing was appointed to fill the vacant seat left open by Brian Bradford. And that was done after the date to withdraw from the ballot. So Mr. Plank's name is still showing on the ballot, but indeed Mr. Volkart is running unopposed for Ward 1. Mr. Volkart, as I said, and Mr. Wilson are unable to be here tonight, so we just have Ms. Stephanie Bell with us. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Start off by introducing yourself and how long you've been on the council.
All right. My name is Stephanie Bell. I moved to Ashland, I think it's been 6 years ago, once my son, who is now in 5th grade, was about to start kindergarten. I'm originally from Jefferson City, that's where we were living, and we started to explore some school options, and that's when we decided we wanted to make Ashland our home. We live in the Middleton subdivision, and for anyone who I have the chance to tell, I tell people that Ashland has truly been a blessing to our family, and now we have 3 kiddos in the school system. The youngest just started kindergarten this year, so it really has been a wonderful community. We feel very welcome, and it was never my intention to serve on the Board of Aldermen, but luckily, so I went to Truman State. I have a degree in political science. I've been very involved in politics my whole life, and always involved in community organizations. So when I was in Jefferson City, very involved in the chamber, very involved in downtown Jefferson City. And when I came up here, I think I was serving on the YMCA board and someone got wind of some of my background and I was appointed onto a committee with Alderman Lewis and former Mayor Richard Sullivan when we were looking for a city administrator. And so that was my introduction to city service here in Ashland. Got to know those folks and some of the folks who were interested in being involved in city government. Really enjoyed that service. And later there was a vacancy, basically right in the height of COVID. And that's when I was first appointed. And then I subsequently ran unopposed for my seat and am running again. Other than that, I am a busy mom of 3. I am on the radio in the morning on 93.9 The Eagle and on KWAS. I do that in the mornings, and then I'm a full-time practicing lawyer. I have a law firm that is in downtown Jefferson City, but that serves clients in mid-Missouri and actually worldwide. And then I recently purchased another business, the trolley company in Jefferson City. And so I think all of those things help me in my service in that, understanding what it's like to raise kids, understanding what it's like to own a business and pay taxes and all of those things, I think help me bring a good perspective to the board. And I enjoy it. It's very fun.
Thank you. When do you sleep?
Not very often.
Doesn't sound like it, okay.
Nope.
We'll start with the questions. Some of these were given to me by members of the public, so we'll start off with, how do you plan to balance the need to pay for infrastructure versus the need to keep housing prices of all kinds affordable?
I don't know that as the Board of Aldermen, as the government, that we really have control over our housing prices. I do think that that's our struggle, is how do we pay for the infrastructure? The housing prices are largely dictated by the market. I think a lot of the discussion we've had over the last year or two is, with the permitting, how do we balance those permit prices? How do we share the costs of those who are using the systems or using the roads, or putting extra stress on our infrastructure with, the public's funding of the infrastructure. And so I think we're going to hear a little bit later from our friend Mr. Creel about one way that we might be funding some of that infrastructure. And that was a consensus vote by the council to put that to the ballot. So ultimately, I think it's going to be up to the people and how they want to fund the infrastructure. This was one idea put forward by the council, and the community has the choice to support that or not. And if they choose not to, then we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. But it's one of our biggest struggles, I think, as a community. And I don't know that there's a great answer, but we've got one that, obviously will be before the people.
What do you think the city of Ashland can do to improve the opportunity for filling vacant commercial spaces and encourage the creation of diverse and inclusive neighborhoods?
There's a lot that can be done to fill the vacant spaces. I think what we're doing as far as bringing some of the services that we've had elsewhere in-house in Ashland, and kind of beefing up our city staff and getting and having a lot of those conversations right here, I think is really important. I think our city staff's doing a good job of working the partnerships that we do have, whether it be with the state, with some of our regional economic development partners. And then, anytime we have kind of a lead or a question, I know I can contact our city staff, I can contact our mayor, and they are really timely about talking to those business people or, industry folks who are interested in, coming to Ashland. And I think it's about that relationship, and then letting the folks know who are looking at Ashland, giving them the confidence that we're the right place for them. And obviously, city staff has been very successful in that recently, and had some really huge successes with locating projects here. I think as those projects, a lot of them are still in their infancy, but as they continue to get up and running and growing, I'm hoping we can spread the message of that and continue that success. I think the other thing, that we need to keep focusing on is our existing businesses. We've had a lot of businesses around Ashland that have been here for a long time, and having my business in Jefferson City, I think they're seeing a lot of turnover now with older businesses. And so part of that is also, with the vacancies, is maintaining your existing businesses. So making sure we're taking care of that. And I think the chamber does a good job of taking care of those businesses. And I think, yeah, I know the chamber's got events and other things, but part of it is just making your own community aware of what's available. And I think if I could pick one area to improve on, that was something I really tried hard when I worked with downtown Jefferson City, was to actually take people through the empty spaces and make sure that my folks who were already kind of movers and shakers, and who I knew, had the means to do really cool things, knew what was available and saw it and walked through it. And so I think we could do a better job of just marketing those spaces. But I think right now we're enjoying a lot of success thanks to a lot of teamwork here in the community.
Speaking of success, what are you most proud of since being on the board of Aldermen?
Gosh, I don't know that I can really claim credit for anything. I think that's so hard. Yeah, I don't know that I can really claim credit for anything. I think one thing that I'm really proud of, I think we've had some tough conversations. And so there's not like a project or something that I would say this is what we did. And I think I think in today's society, it's been really, it's very hard for people to disagree and still have friendships or still maintain good relationships. And I think we have disagreed on things like recycling and taxes and other things. And we've gotten some good feedback from the community that says, when they come or when they watch, they can see that conversation. We have it in open session. We talk through those issues, and you get some feel for why we feel the way that we feel. And so I think that's really important for the community. And I've been to other communities or other meetings where you show up and it's clear whatever conversations happened, they happened prior to that meeting, and you'll never know why people felt the way they did. And so I think continuing that, trying to be as transparent as possible with the community, especially with as small as we are, and knowing, you can disagree with me, but I'm gonna be pretty upfront with how I feel and why I feel the way I feel. And if I get outvoted, I might take another run at recycling because I really would like to see us find a solution to that. But you're gonna know, where I stand and why I voted the way I did, and I think that's important for our community.
Well, good segue to my next question. Let's talk about recycling. Um, what is your opinion on the current recycling situation in Ashland and your thoughts on improving it? What would you like to see?
It's really tough right now. It's tough as just a regular citizen. I've been talking to people in the community. We've been getting a lot of communications from folks who have seen the survey, who don't want to be forced into any sort of new service. I voted in favor of the curbside recycling the last time it came around. And at the time, it was going to be $1 increase a month for curbside recycling. I think at the time that was a good choice. I think the vote was 3-2, so it was a close vote. And my understanding is we're looking at maybe considering something similar in the future. But I think it's not going to be the same as what it was then. And so the vote will be, I think, very dependent on the specific offer that's before us. And my personal preference, I've lived in communities with curbside recycling. I think it's a positive. Personally, I like that. I know other folks have concerns about that. And obviously I don't love taxes, right? And it feels like a tax when everyone has to pay an additional fee. I understand from a business perspective, there's no way to have an opt-in service. They will not offer that to us. And so it's an all or nothing that we have to decide as a community whether we're gonna do. But I obviously the current system isn't working. It's frustrating for folks, for a lot of folks here in the community, because of the type of community we're at. I feel like we have a lot of cardboard. I mean, just because we're more of a bedroom community, there's just a lot of cardboard, and that makes it even more difficult. So I think it would be a convenience. I don't know that everyone is in that same boat. And so it's going to come down, I think, to cost. And that survey, I think, is still out, and people are still taking it. So we're still getting communications from people in the community. So, I don't know that the proposal that got voted down last time, I know, I don't know, but I don't think that's going to be the same proposal should one come back before us. I don't know that there's something else out there that wouldn't be better. But I don't think doing nothing is the right answer either, and I don't think the existing system is the right answer either. And when you're looking at the main thing I've seen is people don't like the cost. But right now what we're seeing is, it's what we have right now is not a zero cost option because our city staff is having to clean up when people don't use it correctly. We had to install the lot, we have the fencing. So, it's not zero or whatever this new monthly cost is. And I think, yeah, so it's going to be a community discussion and a community decision. If the same proposal that we had before was back before me today, I would vote yes again. If it was $1 a month for curbside, I would be a yes. I don't think I'm going to get that proposal again. I wish I was.
This was a question from the public again. Should the city have different rules for long-term and short-term housing rentals like Airbnb and VRBO? And what is your vision of a short-term rental ordinance?
Can you repeat that one more
Yep.
time?
Should the city have different rules for long-term and short-term housing rentals? Like a short-term housing rental would be an Airbnb or VRBO. What is your vision of a short-term rental ordinance?
I will caveat this with, don't really think I have a conflict, but my husband is in the rental business in Jefferson City, not in Ashland. So I think I will say that much, that that's part of his business. But besides that fact, I'm a free market girl. I don't like government intervention. And so I really don't think there should be a lot of restrictions about if you own the property, what you should be allowed to do with it. So I wouldn't be in favor of additional regulations on rentals.
What are some of your priorities for each of the city's main budget divisions like Public Works, Police, and Parks?
What are my priorities? I mean, I don't know that I have personal priorities for those areas. I have, obviously we all have general priorities in that we want the infrastructure to be good. We want our folks to be safe. And so, I think that's why we have city staff that we trust. And those folks have developed budgets and they come to us. And for the most part, I think we agree on those priorities. But I don't think as an alder person, I don't think it's my job to go out and say, these are my priorities for your department, because I am not a public works expert. I am not a police expert. So if Chief Edwards comes to me and says, I need equipment, that's my number one priority. Who am I to say, I'm not sure. If he says, I need a new police officer. Same for James, for Mr. Creel. If he says, I need this piece of equipment, it's not my area of expertise. So I think, as an alder person, I think it's our job to ask questions, and especially when it comes to how our money is being spent, to make sure that we're informed and to review what's been given to us. But like for me to go out and say, these should be your priorities, I don't think that's my job.
As a current sitting alder person, what are some of the priorities in the current budget for those people that may not tune into the city meetings every?
I think we're hearing a lot about it, and I think we're going to hear more about it. I think Public Works and Police, and I think those are the things I hear most about, from the folks in the community. We don't have enough money to do as many public works projects as we want. We've got a lot of street work that needs to be done. We've got other public works projects that are, that I would like to see them done more quickly, and so right now it's a timing thing. So we just, you're never going to have all the money you want to do every project that you want. But obviously with a little bit more money, we can speed up some of those projects. And so I think that's what I hear a lot about. I got emails last week about curbs in some of the places that we did overlay. And so not only newer projects, but spending our money in a way that preserves some of the money that we've already invested, I think is really important. And then obviously with the police, we've had a lot of discussion and it's been covered widely in the media. We need more police officers. They have other items that they need. And so again, that's going to be up to the people. But we're relying on James and on Chief Edwards to put that forward, and that it's going to the people. And I think those are even regardless of how that vote goes, those I think are our main priorities in the budget.
What would you say to the folks that are on the fence or even on the other side of the fence about the sales tax issue?
What would I say to them
to convince them to?
I don't. If I'm not a candidate for them, huh?
Would have an opinion on it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think in this way, okay, so I will say personally, I will be voting for it. And I think I don't love the idea of a tax increase. I don't think anybody does, right? But these are the things that the city has told us that they need, and that our Board of Aldermen voted in favor of putting it out to the people. And so personally, I will be voting yes.
all the questions that I have. Now we're gonna have Kyle and Gabe and Mr. Creel come up and talk a little bit about the sales tax issue. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. And I would like to say thank you to the chamber and to just for everything you guys are doing and for hosting. It's just been really great. The last event was really wonderful, and it's just a great being part of a community with a strong business community. So thanks for hosting. All right.
Thank you.
One.
Welcome, gentlemen. I'd like to introduce yourselves to the people watching at home, and then I'll just give the floor to you.
Kyle Michael, City Administrator.
James Creel, Public Works Director.
And Gabe Edwards, Chief of Police.
Won't take too much of your time tonight, so we can get on to the school board candidates, but did want to take a moment just to talk about the primary sales tax ballot measure that you'll see on the April ballot. You'll actually see 3 different tax measures, 2 of which are going to be adult use recreational marijuana. You'll see one for the county and you'll see one for the city. In both instances, both the county and the city are asking for a 3% increase on sales tax for those adult use sale of recreational marijuana. The one we're here to talk about tonight is going to be the 1 cent sales tax. So that'll be an additional 1 cent general sales tax. That'll be split between public safety and the streets department. That'll be a 50-50 split in most years, but the board did vote to have some flexibility there. So some years that may be 60 to one department and 4 to the other, but generally speaking, it'll be a 50-50 split of those revenues. Those revenues will be upwards of $450,000 a year if approved by the voters. I'm joined tonight by James and Gabe, so they can talk a little bit about the specifics for their departments. The other thing that the board thought was necessary when they voted to place this on the ballot was to also look at property tax. So should the voters approve this sales tax measure, there will also be a reduction in the property tax rate for the city of Ashland. So not your overall consolidated rate, but just the city of Ashland portion. So that rate right now is about 24 cents per $100 of value. The board voted to reduce that by a quarter, so that would go down to about 18 cents per $100 of value at the next point when we approve our property tax rate, which would be later this fall in August and September. So with that, I'll turn it over to Gabe, and he can start with some of the important things that he would like to do with some of the sales tax revenue if voter approved.
Thank you. So from a police department perspective, one of our biggest needs is personnel. It's no secret that even fully staffed, the police department here in Ashland is understaffed. Our goal is to eventually, at least in the near future, work up to where we have 2 officers per shift. So essentially daytime, 2 officers would be working, nighttime there'd be 2 officers working. And that's gonna require increasing our staff by 3, I believe, to get to that point. Now, obviously that doesn't get us to the end goal of meeting the national average of, I believe, 14, but it gets us a lot closer, increases officer safety, increases public safety a lot. And whenever we start talking about what it costs to bring police officers on, there's a fair amount of money involved in that. And just the salary alone for one police officer starting out fresh out of the academy, no overtime, no insurance benefits, is about $46,000 a year. Then you tack on the cost of outfitting a police officer with simple things such as uniform shirts, uniform pants, name tags, patches on their sleeves, a coat. That cost is about $1,700 per officer just starting out. Then we add in duty gear, duty belt, holsters, magazine pouches, stuff like that, and you're looking at just under $600 per officer, and that's assuming that we don't already have those items in stock. And those are wear items that we do have to replace during certain intervals. Then we start talking about the the more expensive equipment that goes per officer, ballistic vests, flashlights, intermediate weapons such as batons, OC, tasers, portable radios, a box of business cards, and we're looking at about $10,000 per officer. Then we move into weapons, between a patrol rifle and a pistol. And I mentioned taser earlier. Taser would actually fall under this category here, and we're looking at about $5,900 per officer. Then there's all the software systems that every officer needs. We pay license fees to the county of Boone for that, and Lexipol for policy manuals, Police One for just general continued education to keep our licenses current. And we're talking several $100s per officer per year on that. So, and we haven't even began to scratch the surface in patrol vehicles and the equipment that goes into them. The computer you see in front of me, we have to replace these every 5 or 6 years to the tune of about $5,000 a piece. So whenever we say that more money is needed to increase our services, and for that matter, get us to a point to where we are reliably covering the city of Ashland 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with more than one police officer at a time. These are some of the expenses that really make that difficult for us to do with the current amount of income that the city has, and why we are currently asking the voters to help us fix that issue.
Thank you. We'll turn it over to James now to talk about Public Works.
Thank you. It's just really a continuation of what Chief Edwards echoed, that, there's just not enough funding to go across for all the things that are needed. We find ourselves in the predicament that a lot of our existing roadways came in approximately 15, 20 years ago, and they are starting to deteriorate rapidly. Annually, we want to see the completion of a mill and overlay project, where we just mill out that concrete road deck that's deteriorated and overlay with new asphalt. That, by and large, is the biggest expense that we annually have. Excuse me. And, to the tune of about $15,000 per 250-foot block range. So that adds up quick. Overall, if you kind of step back and look at the streets department holistically, there's much more than just actual road surface that is maintained and addressed. It involves our sidewalks and then our paved shoulders and things of that nature. Long term, we want to move our streets department towards more of a complete streets initiative, to where we're focusing on widening roads when we're able to, or paving the shoulders, installation of sidewalks and crosswalks, particularly the rectangular rapid flash beacon sidewalks, which are about $15,000 per set. Overall, the focus with this tax is passed, will be more on our arterial and collector roads and major thoroughfares. We're talking like Henry Clay Boulevard, Main Street, Liberty Lane, other roads like that. They get more than just your local residential traffic for people that live on that street. In short order, these expenses can add up very quickly. So we're really kind of playing surgery with Band-Aids right now. We try to take the tax dollars that we have and apply them in the most efficient and effective way to address a lot of our road conditions. But unfortunately, there's just not enough money coming in to get us to the point we need to be. Long term, if we were able to get caught up on our road repairs, then we would be able to implement a pavement preservation plan, to where you're seeing these overlaid streets that are being retreated with a rejuvenation or a chip and seal within 2 to 3 years of that overlay being installed. Shy of that, you start to see deterioration in that asphalt, and then you start to develop potholes and go down that road. I mentioned earlier, in the complete streets, is pedestrian access with sidewalks and safe crosswalks. Ashland's a small enough town that you should be able to walk from end to end safely and comfortably. There have been a lot of successes with the walking school bus, and we've had some of our collector roads such as South Main Street and Ash Street, that we were able to obtain some grant funding and help get sidewalks installed, particularly for student pedestrian traffic. Ideally, we want to see that across town. You know, we're working with developers. We're starting to see an increase of sidewalk in residential and commercial development, but there are still a lot of gaps that it's going to be up to the city to fill. And uh, utilize the funds from the sales tax would certainly go a long way in that. Your average sidewalk, you're looking at a cost of approximately $1,500 for a 50-foot stretch. So again, that's things that add up very quickly, and you can really put a lot of money into a small project.
That is all we have. Thank you for taking the time to listen tonight.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break and reconvene with the school board candidates. So give us a moment, and we will be right back. Next up, we have our 7 Southern Boone School District Board of Education candidates. Voters will be voting for 3 candidates for a 3-year term. We're going to use the same rules as we use with the city candidates. Each school board candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for their introduction and opening statement, and then we'll go in alphabetical order. I will then ask a question, and each candidate will be allowed up to 2 minutes for their response. I will provide a 30-second warning by paper when your time is almost up. And I'm going to mix up the order on each question, so a different candidate will go first each time. Candidates for the Southern Boone School Board are incumbent Amy Begman, Karen Kraus-Bill, Christopher Felmley, April Giorgetti, Melissa Karaka, Richard Martin, and Mason Neff. Richard Martin is under the weather tonight and is unable to be here, but he extends an invite for anyone who has questions for him to contact him directly, and we wish Richard a speedy recovery. So let's begin with the introductions. Ms. Begman.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity this evening. My name is Amy Begman. My family has been members of this community for about 16 years, with a child currently in the district. I will call Ashland my forever home, as I'm grounded here, just like my husband Richard, who graduated from Ashland High School prior to consolidation, as he is originally from Hertzburg. I work at MU Healthcare as the service line director for cardiovascular and neurosciences, and have been in healthcare setting for almost 20 years. I have an accounting background with a degree from Central Methodist University and an MBA from Columbia College. I'm within my first term as a member of the school board, starting in June of 2020. I'm looking forward to tonight's dialogue, as I believe these questions are pertinent to this district. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Karen.
Thank you. My name is Karen Kraus-Bill, and I have lived in the Southern Boone community since 1978. I raised 5 children who all graduated from Southern Boone High School. I actually have been on the Southern Boone School Board previously. I served from 1990 to 2008. I've taken a long break, but now I have grandchildren that will be in the district, and I just decided that I really enjoyed my years on the board. It made me feel very connected to the community, and I feel like I've lost a little bit of that. And so I decided that it would be a good time for me to re-enter. I have time. I like the service aspects of being on the school board, and I think I have good prior knowledge to bring to the board. I'm also probably have a lot to learn to get up to snuff with what's going on in the current system. I have worked as an attorney for over 30 years. I have my own business, and I also think that will assist me, or did assist me in being a board member, because I know a lot about running a business, and I understand policies because I am an attorney. So I'm happy to be part of the candidates, and I look forward to tonight as well.
Thank you, Karen. All right, Christopher Felmley.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Christopher Felmley. I'm a retired superintendent with the Southern Boone School Board, School District. I'm very involved with the community, both with the chamber and currently serving as president with the Economic Development Council. Absolutely love this community, absolutely love the school district, and just want to help out and assist and use my prior knowledge and experience to continue to make our district the strongest it possibly can for kids. I'm very passionate about putting kids first and their needs, and everything I can to meet their needs and take them to the next level. Currently also serving on the Learning Garden board, and just again totally committed to the district. I've got one kiddo out of 4 left, still in the district. He will graduate in 2 years, hopefully. But no, I kid. Just truly excited to be a part of the team tonight, talking to you, and look forward to the opportunity to continue to serve the district.
Hi, my name is April Giorgetti, and thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity this evening. I moved here to Ashland probably about 7 years ago. My husband departed from the military, and so we wanted to move closer back to home, and so we started looking around, and Ashland drew our attention because it wasn't too big and seemed like a really good community with really nice people. And so far, obviously, we've not been disappointed. It's a great community. I started teaching here. I've taught for over 11 years, second grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and then just recently I decided to take a little leap of faith and wanted to make a bigger impact, not only in our community, but in our state. And so I became a literacy grant director for the Department of Education. And within that, I haven't even quite been in that position a year, but I've already gained so many new perspectives with all of the literacy work that I've done so far. And I've really enjoyed being able to travel across the state and out of the state to network with other districts and other states with how their education is going, and especially that focus with those student outcomes and literacy and putting those students first. I've got 2 kiddos here that go to Southern Boone, one in the primary school getting ready to go into the elementary, and one in the middle school. And I think this would be a great opportunity for me to stay in the community and get to see all of my kiddos I've already taught and continue to build those relationships I've already formed.
Thank you. Okay, Melissa.
I am Melissa Caraca. I too would like to thank everybody for the opportunity to be here tonight. I have been an Ashland resident for the last 10 years. My husband and I moved here 10 years ago. We have 4 children, 2 of which have graduated from Southern Boone and the other 2 are on track to graduate. We felt welcome here from the day we moved in, and it was one of the things that helped our move a little easier. We keep that in mind over the years and want to make sure we do pay that forward to others as well as they come into the community. I am asking for your support in having a seat with the school board. I believe the schools in the community are on a very good track for growth, and we want to be part of making sure that we all continue to grow and move towards the same goals. I believe in teamwork and building trusting relationships between the communities and the schools. As a board member, I will focus on the main goals of the school board, which include financial responsibility with the tax dollars, being a great ambassador for the school and the community, as well as working to connect the school and the community together. I believe the school board has a responsibility to support the mission of the school, and I will do my best to uphold that mission.
Mason.
Well, this is great. We've got 7 people running for school board, so there's a lot of big hearts in this room. So I just want to say congratulations to everyone. My name is Mason Neff. I am a dad. I am a dad in this district. I'm a proud girl dad, and I've got a kid going who plays soccer. Is going into high school in the fall, and I've got a kindergartner going in the fall. So I've got my bases covered when it comes to the kids in the school. So I really wanted to take this opportunity, since I do have a unique situation having kids on both ends of the spectrum, to really be involved in how our schools work. And I really want to be a voice for parents. So often in the news we hear about, and luckily we're a smaller district, but we hear all the time in the news cycles about miscommunications and informing parents. And so really, since we're board members, we're a lot more accessible to the community and to parents. And so really that's what I want to be, a voice for parents and also a voice for kids. I think a lot of times we get adults in the room, and we obviously have a lot of important work to do with budget and tax money and all of those things, but really when it comes down to it, it's kids. So I really want to do this to be a voice for them and for our parents, and certainly our staff. I've lived in Ashland since 2006. I've raised both my kids here, as I've mentioned, and I've been involved with the Optimist Soccer from 2014 until 2021, when I just couldn't have the time to do it. But I just appreciate the time. It's glad to be in a room full of people with big hearts for our kids, and I appreciate your vote on April 4th.
Okay, we're going to get started with the questions now, and each candidate will have an opportunity to answer these questions. And we're going to start with Mr. Felman, and then we'll go around the table this way. It's just easier on me that way. Describe your view of the roles of the school board and the superintendent.
Sure.
What is the ideal relationship between these 2 positions?
It's incredibly important. That relationship really needs to, be based on trust and understanding of where each other are coming from. Accessibility and being open and available to address questions and concerns. relationship. That's critical. And so I'm very excited that Dr. Roth is our superintendent. I think he's an outstanding individual, educator, and has done so many great things for this district. I look forward to working with him and addressing any concerns that are occurring within the district. It's just really that relationship, that openness and trust is critical in that partnership between the board members and the superintendent, and just being honest and fair. If you've got concerns, you need to bring those up sooner rather than later. No one likes surprises, and so just an open relationship is incredibly important.
Thank you. April, same question. If you need me to repeat the question, I'll be happy to.
I'm okay. Thank you very much. Well said, Chris. I would agree with what Mr. Felmley said. I think clear, consistent communication is incredibly important. I think those clearly defined roles and responsibilities also take shape there. I feel that we need to collaborate, and communication is very important within that. We need to be able to develop specific goals regarding student achievement, be able to look at that data, and just have that shared vision with those indicators of success.
Thank you. Melissa?
The school board role and the superintendent roles are very, very, very important. The school board obviously has the ones that are written in stone with the financial responsibility, the community and the school connections, be an ambassador, and to support the school mission. As far as financial responsibility goes, that to me means that the board is tasked with maximizing the use of the tax dollars to make sure all items are considered and prioritized. That to me is the main important role of a school board. As a superintendent, their job, in my opinion, is the 30,000-foot role. They need to it's their responsibility to oversee the day-to-day operations of the school. And it's also in their wheelhouse that they're supposed to keep the school board informed of what's going on at the schools. Everything comes up to the superintendent, and then it goes to the school board, and the school board is to, communicate back and forth that way. I believe that there should be a working relationship between the superintendent and the school board through open communication. And they both need to be transparent and trusting of each other and know that both sides are working towards the same goal and the same mission at all times.
Thank you. Mason, your turn.
Well, I think there's been some great answers on this, and I think really when it comes down to about a relationship between a school board and a superintendent is obviously the communication part is a big thing. The school board is representing our taxpayers, is representing our community shareholders, our parents, and that's who this school board reports to. They're the ones that are making this important choice at April the 4th. And that's really where it kind of starts, I believe. The superintendent, of course, is the person that is the ultimate administrator of our school district. And I agree with Chris. Dr. Roth is an amazing person. I've interacted with him several times. Very nice person. But really, when it comes down to what that relationship is like, it's got to be transparent. I think we do a lot of things in this school district really, really well. I mean, look around us into the bigger school districts. We do things really well, but there's obviously room for improvement as we continue to grow. We got to have that transparency and making sure that every single dollar in this district is spent appropriately, and it keeps our staff and our students top of mind.
Thank you. I believe the role of the school board member is to help create a governance system with the board and the superintendent working together as a cohesive team with a common vision driven by a shared moral imperative. For Southern Boone, we have stated that our moral imperative is our children, and to achieve excellence in learning for all is our mission. A major role of the school board is to make certain the goals that are set forth for the direction of the district to achieve excellence in learning for all are being communicated to those accountable for the measures. The board must provide oversight to make sure each goal is being met. At a time when we are firing on all cylinders, governance is the key for the school board, meaning they are steering the ship alongside those that are managing or rowing the ship. When things start to go sideways, the board is responsible for one thing, making certain that the superintendent is meeting goals and expectations set forth. As a member of the school board, I'm looking to make sure that measurable goals are set, we monitor and track those goals, and that we look for needed improvement and to communicate those action plans to the community in full transparency. It's our choice to govern well as a collective whole, or we can choose to govern poorly with our own agenda to meet. My goal is to govern well with a cohesive team.
Thank you. And finally, Karen.
Thank you. Well, in an effort to not be redundant to all these wonderful answers, I agree with really everything everyone else said, but when I was on the board previously, we attended some Missouri School Board Association trainings, and it was put in a very simple way to us that there's a corral, and inside the corral is the superintendent's responsibility. So everything inside the corral, and the board doesn't mess with the inside of the corral. Outside the corral is the board's responsibility with the assistance of the superintendent. And it's very simplistic, but actually it's a way to really to keep the board from interfering in the day-to-day activities of the superintendent and allowing the superintendent to do his job while allowing the board to deal with the broader policy issues and things that the board is intended to deal with. So that's really the only thing I can add to all these wonderful answers.
We're going to start with April on this next question. Whose interests should matter in the governance of a school district, and in what ways should they matter?
I feel like that's a trick question. Students first, and why does it matter? It's the success of our kids in this community. This community is incredibly important, and you know, we moved here, 6 or 7 years ago, and so my kiddos have grown up in Ashland, and this is their home, and this is where we build our relationships, and this is where they're going to graduate from. I mean, it's just completely about the kiddos and looking to their success, and part of that for me is with the work that I'm doing now. Like I'm so passionate about literacy and those student outcomes right now, and focusing on all those guidance documents that we have coming out across the state before long, because I mean, I want to see our kids in this community succeed. They deserve to succeed.
What's the same question?
I believe this is something that needs to be addressed on a case-by-case scenario. I believe that decisions should be thoroughly vetted before coming to a quick decision on any matter at hand. There should be a process that is implemented for each instance that is followed up. That way, if there's anything that somebody feels that somebody is being more benefited, then there's data to back it up. When decisions are made as a school board, it's important to remain objective, keep your feelings out of it, and stick to the data and the facts. So making sure those decisions positively impact the maximum amount of parties involved.
You know, I mentioned in my opening statement that, you know, I want to be a voice for the kids, and I think April's absolutely right. I mean, we really build these schools, and we staff these schools, and we do a really great job of making sure that that they're getting the quality education that they deserve. And we put a lot of effort into this. Our staff puts a lot of effort into this. And so really when it comes to the governance of our school board, really the school board needs to be absolutely report to our community holders, our taxpayers. We all know sitting here that our schools are growing. We all know that there are budget constraints. There's only, you know, we were growing faster than we would love to build more schools and add on and things like that, but those take difficult decisions. And so really when it comes down to what the school board needs to be doing is needing to be being held accountable by taxpayers, by our students, and then making sure we're a voice for our staff. Our teachers have been put through it these last couple of years with COVID. You know, they're doing more things than just teaching these days. They're counselors, they're nurses, they're all these other things. And so as a school board, we really need to kind of take a look at that. And I agree, a case-by-case basis, looking at those things and trying to address them is very important of what a school board needs to be doing and how we can be responsible for those things.
Amy. So as mentioned in the question related to the role of the school board, the interest of the student is the moral imperative that should be the focus for the board. But this is not the only interest, as so many other things feed into the support of our students. Safety for students and all faculty, proper wages, appropriate spending for our district size, proper utilization of resources, maintenance of those resources, timing of capital improvements, oversight and accountability are all impacting factors to our students. When I say accountability, I mean there is accountability to the information that is provided to the board from the superintendent. Because board oversight is dependent on quality information being passed along to the board, one of the most potential damaging hotspots in the relationship between the board and the superintendent is the quality of the accuracy of the information provided. The board must have a balanced approach for the overall interests of the district. If we state that it's only one thing, then the potential to ignore all the other factors that have impact, say student experience and outcome, are at risk. We must have a balanced scorecard to keep track of all these factors. If you have had the opportunity to be at or watch the recorded board meetings over the last several months, you will know that this is exactly the direction that the board, as well as the superintendent, are headed. There is much more transparency around finances, opportunities for improvement, and where our needs are. We've developed finance committees and policy committees to support that direction. We've involved staff within those committees and even have community involvement in the continuous school improvement plan. I'm not sure how many could say that the last time these things were happening for the district. I'm hopeful that we continue down this path, as it only leads to upward mobility for our students. Karen.
Well, the interest of the students always comes first. I mean, that is why we are here, for the students to be successful. And then as a part of that, so many other things come into play. As Amy said, teacher salaries, the actual school building, I mean, and on and on. But at the primary focus needs to always be on the students. That being said, I believe that everyone else should also have a voice, or at least be heard, and that's, you know, the teachers, the staff, the taxpayers. Everyone should have a voice, and that should impact every decision as well. But always keeping in mind students first, and every decision has to be based on that.
Thanks, Karen. And finally, Chris.
Can you repeat the
Yeah,
question?
whose interests should matter in the governance of a school district, and in what ways should they matter?
Sure. There's many interests that need to be recognized and taken into account. And of course, kids come first, and this community has done an outstanding job of consistently putting that first. We've had our ups and downs. COVID was a difficult situation that our community faced. Some of it good, some of it bad. But regardless, our community has always had a history of coming together to discuss a problem, a concern, and come up with solutions and ways to overcome that, whether it's athletic facilities with our booster club, or the YMCA, or the Missouri Arts Alliance. You know, all those programs, all those things started with a discussion about a need in our community. And so our school board, our school district is the same. And so, you know, anytime that we can encourage the public to be a part of the solution, the problem solving, and coming up with, you know, ways of addressing the needs of our students, it's going to end positively. So another thing that needs to be taken into account are, you know, government regulations and requirements from DESE. And so we've had some big changes handed down to us over the past several years, especially in the area of accreditation and MSEP 6. We've had many things handed down to us as a result of COVID with finances. You know, I'm eager to see how the district is addressing teacher salaries. It's great that the state has put forth a grant to assist with meeting the minimum salary of $38,000, but as a district, how are we addressing that? You know, right now the salary schedule, teachers don't see, first year teachers won't see an increase until after their fourth year. So, you know, those are all things that need to be considered.
Okay, thank you. Melissa, this question's gonna go to you to start. What school actions or initiatives matter most to you?
I actually don't believe that it's about me. I believe it's about the school, the community, and the students. I believe in an unbiased, objective perspective is important when making decisions on any action. There isn't one initiative that has precedence for me. What does matter the most to me is the impact on the growth and the goals that have been set. Every few years, the school creates their continuous school improvement plan where they set goals for the next several years. It is important to make sure that these goals are set realistically and evaluated regularly and held everyone accountable for reaching these goals. So I guess I would have to say the initiative that matters to me most is probably the established goals when we make sure that they're evaluated and accountable and they are realistic.
Thank you. Mason, same question.
The initiatives that matter to me as a parent, when I got into this, this race, my heart is in Ashland, it's in Southern Boone, it's in Hartsburg, it's everywhere, right? And this is where I want to raise my family. And when I got into this, I had a different idea of what was happening. But as I started talking to parents, one of the things that we always hear the buzzword in the media, but it's happening right here in our district, is mental health. I didn't get in this race to really even talk about it, but many parents have come up to me and have showed me videos of students getting hit in a locker room, and I've seen them, and it's uncomfortable. And I know our schools are better than that. I know we are. And there's kids that are dealing with some incredibly hard mental health in this. I've talked to many other parents that have come to me for the same thing. And so I'm not a mental health expert. And so I think that's a huge challenge our students are facing right here in Southern Boone. And do we want to be known as a school district who we do a lot of things great? I'm a big person and a big believer in constant improvement. Are we one of those school districts where we're going to be, oh, well, these only happen with a couple of students? Are we really going to take the lead here, not only in Central Missouri, but in our state, and say, hey, we're going to find solutions for these kids. We're going to, get the right people together and give these kids a voice, because they're really struggling out there. And so I've kind of had to kind of change my tactic a little bit. So that's the initiative that I believe in the most. And I think staff is a big issue with that too. We've got a great staff. We've got to recruit more great staff. And I have some ideas to do that.
Okay, Amy, same question. Initiatives that matter most to you?
Sure. So given my perspective over the last 3 years being on the board and seeing the impact that COVID has had on many school districts, but especially the students, I would say one school action that I'm happy to see is a collaboration with the University of Missouri and resources within our state around the emotional well-being of our students, much like Mason is indicating. We've had multiple report outs from these resources during the last year indicating the need to support our students not only in their academic success, but also emotional and social aspects. COVID didn't necessarily make all this impact, but between that and social media, our children are now more vulnerable than ever. What we as a community must realize is that the sole responsibility of these things must not lie solely with the district. There must be collaboration between administration and teachers as well as parents as to how our children learn and progress. Making sure these resources are available to students is imperative. Things are very different than when some of us grew up. We have to utilize the resources necessary for each child to succeed. As with the question about interests that matter most, we must have a balanced approach, but this support for some students may take precedence.
Karen, initiatives that are important to you?
Okay. Well, when I thought about this question, I realized that really the issues that I feel are important now haven't changed much from 15, 20, 25 years ago. And I have a list. I think we need to provide a safe school environment. I think we need to strive to have competitive teacher salaries so we can attract and retain exceptional teachers and staff. I think we need to keep class size as small as possible. I think children learn better in a smaller class environment. I think we need to be sure we have adequate reserves so our district is financially secure. I think we need to budget for the necessary repairs and updates to school buildings. that also relates to safety. I think we need to have academic programs in place that allow all children to reach their full potential. And we need to continue to provide a variety of excellent extracurricular activities. And again, I think these are age-old concepts, and I think they also apply in the present environment. And
Chris?
Sure. Personally, priorities for me as a potential board member, and somebody who lives in this community and believes that education is imperative. The finance, the budget concerns me, teacher salaries concern me. We've got a lot of openings right now. And I know that as growth continues, we have new openings, but we've got to juggle, the responsibility of maintaining a equitable and a salary schedule that will attract teachers to come to our district and stay with us. Again, there's things with the new state minimum that I'm concerned about. Also, there's all kinds of money that was given to the district, to all school districts in relation to COVID. Are we, drawing those funds down, or are we getting that revenue that's been earmarked for us? Working closely with the superintendent, there's one thing is you've got the day-to-day budget, but then you also have the long-term budget. I know that the district right now is working with a third-party company to do that. I'm not hearing a lot of things about, budget proposals and taking a look at, increasing salaries and hiring new teaching positions. I know that we are purchasing buses, but I'm concerned what that impact is going to have on the budget. The last thing I want to see happen is that our property taxes increase, and I'm really concerned about that. We're one of the highest property taxes in the area, and rightly so. We've got outstanding facilities and a great educational program, but if there's any way that we can avoid that, I think that needs to be reviewed.
April, initiatives that matter most to you.
Sure. So several good points have already been brought up. This probably makes me think back to stepping out of the classroom several years ago, or last year, excuse me, and thinking about over the last several years going through COVID and in the classroom and thinking about teacher support. I think thinking about how we can support leadership, that top-down piece, starting with our superintendent, going to our administrators, thinking about our teachers, and thinking about what is needed. I've heard several comments that have been made about teacher salary, even before COVID, before salary was a major issue. I think the thing that's important to think about with Ashland is we know it's difficult for us to find where we can give teachers raises, but I think it also goes back to looking at our community and after, let's say, recovering from COVID, which is where we kind of are right now, to really think on what can we do as a community to come back together and move past all of those policy issues that we've had over the past few years and think about what is it that drew all of these teachers in. As someone who came to Ashland several years ago, I was drawn in because I was told it was a great school, great teachers, great friendship, and that's exactly what it's been. I've made so many friendships, so many connections with parents, with students, with teachers, with administrators. Our superintendent's amazing. You're right. Dr. Roth is doing a great job. I admire him as well. I think it's just really important to think about that as well. And then to go back to thinking, again, I know I keep kind of harping on it, but our state is really pushing literacy initiatives and what can we do to help those kids that are falling through the cracks and how can we support them with reading success plans and looking at our literacy plans, looking at MSIP, looking at our district continuous improvement. Are all those systems in place from the top down?
Okay. Lots of talk already about taxes, and so we're gonna have the tax question. Mr. Felmy mentioned it, Southern Boone School District currently has the highest tax rate of all the school districts in Boone County. Based on the information that I got from the collector's office, the 2022 taxing rate for our district is $5.79 per $100 of assessed value, with $1.80-ish going to pay debt service and the remaining $3.98 going to an incidental fund, with 0 earmarked for capital projects or the teachers fund. And in comparison, CPS's data says their tax rate for the Columbia Public School District is $5.66 per $100 of assessed value, with only $1.49-ish going to the incidental fund, 97 cents going to their debt service, and 10 cents to their capital projects. Yet CPS earmarks $3 and a little over $3 and almost $3.10 to their teacher fund. Help me understand the difference, and what do you plan to do to increase teacher pay at Southern Boone? Mason, we're going to start with you.
Well, I think it's a 2 to 3 part answer to that question. Certainly, we all see our property tax bills, and we see the percentage that go to our schools. We do have great facilities for a town our size, and I think that's something we should all be proud of. April brought it up earlier. The school is probably one of, if not the one reason why people want to come move to our community. We are the economic engine of this community. But going back to the tax question, I think one thing, and Amy brought it up earlier, is really we have to take a look at what the budget looks like right now. And we have to look at how accurate is that information. I was at a school board meeting in February, and we were talking about the summer school budget was $300,000, but come to find out it's actually $400,000 because things weren't budgeted correctly. Somehow the general ledger codes and other things weren't coded in. That's $100,000 amiss. So I really think coming to these school board meetings and learning about all of these things, as a parent, that's where I would start first. Our teachers deserve more pay. They're really good at what they do. We need to retain the good ones, and we need to start there. Let's look at how accurate the pot of money that we have, and let's look at that. The state of Missouri is looking at school choice as coming in. Right now, we have many kids that I know in the district that are attending schools here, but they live in another district. So their state money is not coming to our district. So that's another issue that I would like to look at, is really find out whose primary address is in the district so that we can make sure that the state money follows that child where it's allocated. We want to make sure we're working with all the dollars we can. And then we need to look at putting money away and looking at supporting our teachers. It's very, very important, but we need to be responsible. We pay a lot of money for our schools, and we owe it to our taxpayers, kids, and staff.
Amy, same question.
So finances have kind of been a passion of mine since being on the board, given my background. But as most recent as 2021, the state has indicated that funding is lacking for education. So we all know where that funding burden has landed, and that's with Missouri residents. Southern Boone is no different. The difference between how funds are allocated per our tax rate as compared in this question to CPS is mainly due to the lack of commerce within Southern Boone County. For the 2022 audit for the district, local revenue funded 50% of our total. The assessed value and tax on our property, as Mason was indicating, is how the local government generates revenue. So assuming we had increased commerce, which would provide for another funding source or increased funding source, we would be able to distribute things differently, like teacher salaries. So I want to be clear, just because Southern Boone doesn't specifically earmark to the teachers fund doesn't mean that increases haven't occurred. I believe the increase approved for the fiscal year 23 budget was at or above 4.5%. This is on top of the amount that a teacher may get when they move down in the teacher's salary schedule. In relation to all of our finances, we must continue to ask the question, just because this is how we've always done it, doesn't make that the right way to do it. Related to capital projects, the superintendent just in the last few board meetings has indicated that we will start to earmark funds for capital projects in fiscal year 24. I feel we're moving in the right direction for this improvement. For teacher salary, the question may come, do we need to start to explore a levy to provide for a better increase or restructure of our salary schedule? Part of this has been discussed by the board as well as some aspects in our finance committee, of which I am the chair. We have options, but the community must be behind something like a levy if we feel that is the right direction to proceed.
Karen.
Thank you. I have always supported paying teachers the highest salary possible within budget constraints, and I always will support paying teachers the highest salary possible within budget constraints. I think we need to have more taxable businesses in our community, and, you know, perhaps as a board or as a community, you know, we can work on that more. I know there's many people trying to attract businesses to the community, and recently we've had more businesses, but really we're gonna struggle with this problem until we have enough business in the community to support the influx of students. If I'm elected to the board, I would be happy to serve in the finance committee and help the others find more options to be able to safely pay our teachers and staff more competitive salaries, because it's obviously very important to our district.
Thank you. Chris?
Sure. No, I agree with a lot of what's already been said. I think the district has done an outstanding job of capital improvements with its facilities and maintaining, the best facilities we can. Now, there's always going to be, day-to-day needs that need to be addressed. So, as far as our next bond issue, I feel confident that, the district's on about a 2-year rotation on being able to pay down our debt, kind of like your mortgage, and then have the ability to, to leverage additional money without increasing our taxes. So a no tax increase is what that's been historically called when we have a levy. As far as increasing the levy and incidental, I'm really hesitant against that. I think it's important that we do everything we can to work within our means. Maybe that's not hiring so many positions, maybe that's putting a freeze on that and addressing our salary schedule. The state has given school districts grants to increase the starting pay. Ashland is taking advantage of that now. How do we get away from that? Because right now the cycle is a first-year teacher, they're not going to see a pay raise until year 5. And so to me, it's important that we really study this as a board, we study it as a community, come up with our priorities with the building principles, and work together to address that issue. There's additional money out there with the state, with the career ladder program. Are we utilizing that? Those are all questions and concerns that I have, hopefully as a new board member.
April, what would you do to increase teacher pay at Southern Boone?
I think that's a very tricky, loaded question, and
That's why
I
asked it.
think, right, I love it, I love it. I think there have been really good points and really good answers around to me. So I think, one, I would have also, along with Chris, said that, thinking about looking at what the state has to offer, and if we are looking into those resources. I would also go back to, Ashland is a small town. We're always going to compete with Columbia and Jefferson City. And while I think, yes, we definitely need to raise teacher pay, I was a teacher, I would love that. I also, short term, thinking about our community, I would also like to propose the thought of what is it that Ashland has right now as a community, as a district, as a staff. What do we already have that we can promote to pull those teachers in with the turnover rate that we continue to have these last couple of years? And what is it that will keep those teachers here? Not just based, I get it, I know salary is a big thing, and I know the whole 4-day school week is coming up. It's a hot topic right now, but what can Ashland look at within our community and within our schools to say, let's look at our admin, let's look at our leadership, let's talk to those teachers. There are teachers that come from those other schools and have settled here and are happy. Why are we not talking to them more and asking them what makes them stay in Ashland?
Melissa?
One of the things that has brought me to where I am today is the ability to utilize my outside resources and to maximize my resources that I have available to me. With that being said, I commend the current school board for putting together that finance team, because that's going to be the meat of the process. They're the ones that are going to be that expert on it and to do that diving real deep into these progresses and processes and see what's going on. And I rely on them to educate the rest of the board on what that means to everybody. So heavily relying on that finance committee is going to be key. Because Amy, like you said, it's your passion. So I'm not gonna step on that, but I'm gonna utilize it. According to the school cards that, there is data that's already presented to you guys. Sorry, I lost my place. I believe the faculty pay should always be a top item when evaluating the budgets. And again, I would lean heavily on that finance committee because that's their passion, that's what they're good at, and that's what they know the most of. But it's the responsibility of the board to see that the tax revenue is maximized every year.
Okay, so we talked about attracting new teachers. This is a question that's off the cuff, just based on some of the responses. What are some of the out-of-the-box ideas that you have to attract new teachers to our district? Amy?
So a couple of things that we have actually done, I think it was about a year ago, we really tried to arm our administrators when they went to career fairs with, like April was indicating, really a total rewards package. What is not just a salary base, but what are all of the components that Southern Boone can offer, whether it's the type of student we have here versus a Jeff City or a Columbia, the environment in which they're teaching within, the resources they may have, the benefits we pay for, what are those differences that really stand out to teachers? And so really trying to, again, arm those folks with that information as they went out to those career fairs. I think we probably rely way too heavy just on the base salary. So that was one initiative. Again, investigation into a levy. I don't know that that's ever been done here at Southern Boone, but given the growth from a perspective of new homes within our district, many of which have small children, we don't have that balance of commerce and tax from the folks that live here. And so it does rely heavily on the backs of the community members. So is that a component that we start to look at and really investigate?
Karen, same question.
Yes.
To attract new teachers.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest attraction to this district, if I was a teacher looking to come teacher, is that, it's a safe work environment. We have a community that fully supports the school, parents that will, at least most parents that will do almost anything for their kids, and for the school, students that are eager to learn a variety of activities, and there's just so much to do. And then, if a teacher has a family, obviously it's a great place to raise a family. So, I mean, to be honest, most people don't get into teaching because it's the most lucrative career. They get into teaching because they have a passion for the students and for sharing knowledge with the students. And so those kind of people will like what this community has to offer. So I think that just telling people about our community and the people in our community would attract them to our district.
Chris?
Sure, there's a few things going on. I agree, focusing on what the benefits of working at Southern Boone is critical, and making sure those are highlighted with prospective teachers. Traditionally, the board has made it a priority to fully pay the employees health insurance, and I was glad to see that priority continue, even though that cost continues to increase. I think that's an important perk. The district also pays for I believe it's a $25,000 life insurance policy for the employee. And so, those are important things that other districts, smaller districts and comparable size districts do not do. And even our neighbors do not provide that. Columbia, Jeff City, we're always going to, be at a disadvantage when competing with them and their salary schedule. But anything that we can do locally to increase our salaries, we really need to be investigating that and trying to get up above the state minimum as quickly as possible, because we're going to lose the ability to retain our newer teachers. Ashland is growing, commercial business is growing. The city has done a great job trying to pull in new businesses. You know, folks, the more commercial tax base, the higher the commercial tax base, the lower our residential tax base will be. So anything we can do to pull in commercial development as quickly as possible, I think is going to benefit Ashland as well as Hartsburg and the school district. You know, we've seen new businesses. I know new businesses are coming to us, excuse me, here in the next year. And so we just need to continue to see that growth increase.
I honestly struggle a little bit with the intent of the benefits. I have taught in other districts in Missouri and out of state, and I know I can't consider out of state, but there are a lot of districts now that it's comparable. I mean, I think we should still focus on trying to support and show that we do have a good benefits package. But these days, I would say that some of the smaller districts are starting to have some of those packages. And I've had somewhat better insurance in other districts before. But what I will say is thinking out of the box, there are a lot of opportunities for superintendents, for administrators to attend admin meetings, superintendent meetings. We have those admin conferences, lots of different places where we could network, and I'm sure it's already being done, but just to continue that focus of let's look at districts that are our size, that are comparable, that we can compare to, and network with those other superintendents, those other districts, and talk about what they have going on in their school. And maybe they're struggling with that teacher salary piece as well, looking for those teacher raises. But what is it that they're doing as well? So I think that networking piece would be pretty important as well.
April, I think you bring up a great point. Being in the payroll and the HR world, recruiting is very challenging right now across the board. So school districts are not an exception. One thing that we see a lot of in our industry is that not a lot of people actually talk about those total benefit packages and the statement of benefits upon hiring employees and review them on an annual basis. What those are is just a statement that pretty much tells you how much the school or your employer pays for your health insurance, how much they pay for that group term life, how much they pay for your vacation days and days off and all that kind of stuff. So it gives you everything in one complete statement that says, even though this is your salary, here's actually what you're being paid for the year. So it kind of gives you a better overall view of everything. But also we need to focus on our strengths. You know, our city has a low crime rate comparable to a lot of other things. We need to focus on that. You know, our student teacher ratios, we want to keep them there. We want to keep that education going so that each student gets the nice time that they do with their faculty. Bring students to job fairs. Have them talk about what they like the most about the schools and what it does for them and what having good teachers does for them. And not only that, but there's great community support, and there's a lot of collaboration that is growing each and every day between not only the school district, but the chamber and the Betterment Coalition and the Southern Boone Economic Development Commission. So they're all collaborating more and more together to help everything grow. You know, the city tries to bring in more businesses, but that's in the city, it absolutely benefits them, but it benefits the school as well. So the school and the city working together to try to bring in more businesses absolutely helps. So just a lot of collaboration going on and a lot of talking more about those things also.
Well, I think there's really four things that, I'm all about the networking. I think that's important, find out what's working in other districts, what's not working, and try to feel like that. But I really have four things that I think could help out with that. I know a lot of our teachers buy their own supplies for the schools. They spend hundreds of, if not thousands of dollars of their own money to supply their classrooms. That's a lot of money. We've all gone to the grocery store. We've all seen how expensive the supplies are. That's a huge impact. If we could somehow figure out a way to be budget friendly and arm our teachers with a budget, one that's a realistic budget, that's doable, and can create a very good educational environment, I think is a great place to start. We've talked a lot about teachers. A here, and they're obviously very important. I know my kids have had some great teachers here in Southern Boone. But let's not forget our frontline workers. Those are the ones that, when the pandemic happened, they're still driving the buses. They're the ones that are still working in the kitchens. They're the ones cleaning the hallways, cleaning the bathrooms, and they're doing it each and every day. And I think we cannot forget about how hard it is to employ in those positions, but we need to also be competitive in that space. I work in senior housing in Jefferson City, and that's one of the big things that we see as a culture. And I think when you really bring employees into a place of work, you want to have a great work culture too. And so when you attract teachers and things, well, man, it's fun to go work at Southern Boone. They've got a great administrative staff. They're having fun. And those are some things that, and we've talked a lot about the numbers, and those things have to be sorted out. But I think some simple things we can do. I know if I was going to go teach I had a choice between two districts, and one's going to buy my supplies or one's going to pay me extra $4 to drive a bus. I think that's a pretty good way. So we've got a ways to go. I'm looking forward to help.
Thank you. All right, Karen, this is question to you and then the rest of the panel. What do you think city leaders can do to help what potentially could be a housing crisis in Southern Boone County for our teachers who only make $38,000 a year? Because as we all know, it's very expensive to buy property here or rent property. So what are your comments about that and the potential? I think it involves the attracting teachers. If they can't afford to live here, how do we help that? Karen?
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I mean, I really don't know much about that. So, I don't know what we can do about the housing. I mean, I guess you're telling me that there is a situation where the teachers aren't being able to find housing that they can afford.
I believe so.
No, yeah, see, I have to be honest that I was not aware of that. I guess just reach out to people in the community, and people have units that they rent, or houses that they rent, and just see if we can get the community to maybe people in the community would be willing to reduce their rent to bring in good teachers to the district. I mean, I think that again, this is a way that I think our community could come together, and if everybody gives a little, so if somebody lowers their rent by $100 a month and someone else does the same thing, then we could help provide teachers with a place to live. And I just think we need to, reach out to the community and inform them, because I mean, I did not know about the situation, so if I would have been willing to help if I knew that. So I think we just need to make sure the community knows about that, and I think there's so many good people in our community that they'll come forward to help.
Sure. No, when I was superintendent, we had such an outstanding, strong relationship with the city, and always working together and trying to help each other out. Hartsburg, Ashland, a lot of housing rentals is word of mouth, and making sure that our building administrators maybe have some key people who they can reach out to. Renters always want to rent to somebody who's going to respect their property, as opposed to somebody who they may incur additional charges when they leave. And so I'm sure our educators would be the type of person that our people would want to rent to. And so just communication, improving communication, and making sure that the building principals, the administration can work with the city to identify those people and try and make the connections, connect the dots, as a good friend of mine says.
Same question.
There aren't a lot of rentals in Ashland. I think that's the biggest thing, and we do have a lot of young teachers now that come into our community. So I agree, it would be a community effort and a discussion more about we have more homes for sale than we have very few rentals. But with that also being said, for the most part, we have a lot of teachers that drive in from other towns and come to Southern Boone every day too, so.
Melissa? I think that's something that needs to be looked at along with the budgeting process. Obviously, we want to try to increase their salaries, increase new teacher salaries and all that, but are there other creative ways to do that? Is there something like we can give them a mileage reimbursement, or is that something, you know, that is under consideration? I think it's great to network and to have those network of people, that the word of mouth, the rentals that we know that's open, but in all reality, again, the numbers are gonna cross at some point. So is it feasible to be creative and find the other outlet for it, to have them drive from Columbia? It's really not that far of a drive, in all seriousness. For either Columbia or Jeff City, they're not that far. Yes, their rentals are probably more available there. They're a little bigger towns. But can we be a little more lenient with a gas mileage reimbursement or some sort of something like that, or, you know, break time card, or, you know, to go along with that?
Mason?
Well, I work in the rental space, so this is something I'm very familiar with. And again, I'm in senior housing, but all of it's pretty much the same. And rental properties, in particular, apartment complexes, have seen tremendous expenses. Utilities have gone way up. A lot of this has to do with, you know, the utility rates that cities and municipalities charge. Certainly property tax is a big issue that goes into what we charge for rent. And I think we have to understand that nobody is going to lower their rent. And that is just a reality that we have to work in that reality, unfortunately. So one thing that we can do with a relationship with the city is really talk about opportunities for development. You know, the demand is here. You've seen the cost of homes here. It's incredible. And so I think, you know, there's ways to go about building apartments that are nice, that are, you know, well kept. You know, and then there's also, a lot of times, you know, we heard it a lot in Jefferson City this year, you know, workforce housing. That's been a bad word lately, right? Because it's not in my backyard, right? But these are the realities we all have to be. Housing is a huge cost. And certainly with the economic development, we need workers here. We need teachers. We need, you know, builders and those types of things. And so, you know, one of the things to look at is maybe, you know, talking about the needs of housing. The relationship is we have to be a voice for those teachers and saying, we'd love to hire them. Here's these great packages. Here's the more money that the increase in salary. We need to find places for them to live. I don't care if you're driving from Columbia to Ashland or Ashland to Jefferson City. Gas prices are still an expense, and a new teacher, that's still a big expense. We need to be cognizant of that, and that's something that we should look at.
So I'm gonna kind of go down a different path, I guess. Most folks have, you know, when you describe it, Vicki, about, you know, a housing crisis, I would imagine most teachers, even if they are young, would prefer to own their home rather than rent. And so, given the question was around city leaders, how do we have a plethora of banks in this town. How do we start to leverage or work with those banks to have a decreased mortgage rate for teachers, or a decreased or waived closing cost for those folks that might fall into those categories? So I guess that would be a way I would think that city leaders could impact, or again, start to leverage those community partners that we do have in Ashland to help create those kind of incentives.
I think it's Chris's turn to start. What are your thoughts on a 4-day school week for the district?
Yeah, talk about it.
All right.
All this could go.
No, folks, honestly, and you know, it's no secret. I know that can be a great benefit, and that is a huge tool to leverage additional potential new teachers and you know, people to the school district. I'm against it. Personally, I think kids need more educational time than less. Yeah, you can tell me that we tinker with the hours and we make the day longer, and overall it's the same. I would much rather talk about year-round schooling with, 2 and 3 week breaks throughout the year as opposed to a 4 day schedule. I just think that's a burden on parents, especially those who need us the most. Those who may be disadvantaged and may not be able to juggle that kind of a schedule. And so, I'm really concerned about that and making sure that the kids who need us the most get the education that they deserve. And so I'm not a fan of it. Um, I think Southern Boone has more parents who could probably juggle that, whereas other districts, where the need is greater, would struggle. But I'm open to discuss it as a potential board member, but my bias is I think kids need more time as opposed to less.
April.
So this is definitely a hot topic, and I've heard a lot of conversations about this in multiple school districts and conversations I've had over the past several months. I can't say that I'm for or against it. I'm open to, discussion about it. I think it would require some research. Some things that I thought about would be the flexibility for teacher schedules. They have those that if it's a Monday or a Friday, most I think do Monday, but they have that time to get their meetings done. They have that time to do their professional development. They have that time to plan. The professional development can be held on those days. Some districts have found that there's been an increase in student attendance, and with that being said, it goes back to that day off. Parents can schedule their doctor's appointments on those days off. Some districts have noticed a slight increase in saving money, like on their utilities, labor, and transportation. But on the flip side, that's a con as well because maybe they don't really save that much money. Teacher retention, it's definitely a draw-in right now. I just had a conversation recently, though, about for now, it could be a short-term fix for us, but, think about all the small districts doing it, and then you think about going towards Kansas City, and there's a large district that just did this. And so then that small district draw-in is not, because everybody's starting to do it. An increase in student performance. One district that I've worked with recently, they actually use their Mondays for intervention support. So like Chris was talking about with some of those students that really have that need to be in school for food, they need that consistency. There are intervention supports in place there on those days. And then cons, childcare. How does it really in the long run affect academic performance? Because maybe, there's increase in academic performance, there's a decline, but I feel like we still have a few years to determine whether it's successful or not.
Melissa, 4-day work week.
4-day school week.
Or school week.
That's all right.
I'm
I'm on a 4-day work week, just so we're clear. That's a yes. Yeah, I'm for that.
They're here.
Yes, please.
Fine, we'll do it. 4-day school week.
There you go.
Well, there's many pros and cons to this, and we could debate it for hours and hours. However, it's not about me and what I think about it. It's about what the community thinks. I believe this could potentially help our budgeting process, potentially. However, there's 3 things also that need to be present for this to be successful. There needs to be clear communication, education to everybody, and clearly executed. Communication through open forums, Q&A sessions, sharing of data from other communities within our community. And the only way I can feel somebody can make an informed decision about this is if they are communicated everything about it. If we provide multiple ways to our community, they can make a more educated decision. We also have to educate our community on it, educate everybody from top down. By educating this community, you'll have more educated decisions, and the ideal way to get the buy-in from the community is through education. By execution, I mean by the part of communication and the education is key, but that execution, if that fails, then the whole thing is not for anything. It's no secret that parents will need to plan for daycare, transportation, other things like that. Having a clear execution plan that is communicated well during the evaluation process will again help that community, help the parents, and help everybody have a better understanding and make a more informed decision.
I'm kind of piggyback a little bit off what Melissa was saying. It's really what the community wants. Personally as a parent, there are a lot of parents that, I think it's going to be a struggle. I mean, we don't have as many daycares as a lot of, and I believe, April was talking about Kansas City. I believe it was Independent School District that went to that 4-day. There's, per capita, I'm sure there's more daycares, but a lot of people in our school district, may be struggling with that. That's an extra expense. A lot of families don't have an extra family member that, if I've got a first and second grader that are in school, that's gonna cause a lot of problems with those families. And so, I would, if I'm lucky enough to, be a part of the school board and be elected, I think one of the first things when this, eventually is going to get addressed is to make sure that all of our community leaders and especially our parents, their voices are heard. And I think that's so true. We got to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And really, is this going to be a big fit? If this is something that the community wants to rally for, then let's talk about it. Let's look at the financial impact of it. We talked a lot about that today, so I'd be interested in how that looks. And of course, the recruitment part of it. But again, I'm like with what Chris said. I think at the same time, more kids in schools, more school time, more class time is always a benefit, especially coming out, several years after the pandemic. So that's where I'm at on that.
Amy.
I too wrote in my answer initially work school. 4-day work. So I had to redo that. But a decision for a 4-day school week likely will have both pros and cons depending on the student makeup of your household or the job you might want to stay in or to move to if you're a teacher. Will you need additional daycare for that one day? Do you feel comfortable leaving your children at home for that day? Are you able to finance the additional daycare? Do you have adequate daycare? Do we have adequate daycare here in Southern Boone to accommodate such a change? Do the staff like that? Would that appeal to them? So many new families have entered our district in the last 5 to 7 years with mostly having smaller children. I'm not for or against, but would look to the community as well as teachers and administration to help answer a question like this and understand the impacts to our families before blindly making the decision to support a proposal of such magnitude. I'd like to be able to see data and make a data-driven decision based on the results that we see from other like-sized districts, again, as well as input from those directly impacted, which would be our family administrators and staff.
I really like this question. It allowed me to do some research. I talked to some administrators to develop my answer. The truth is I had one thought going into my research and another coming out. But in the end, it doesn't really matter what I think. And as a board member, it wouldn't matter what my personal feelings were. I would want to see that we did extensive research led by the administration. Perhaps a public forum where we invite the community to come in and voice their opinions. And in the end, the board and administration just have to make the best decision, weighing all the pros and cons. There are many of them. And, I don't pretend to have the answers. I just know all the questions right now because of my research and talking to the administration. But as a board member, I would want to extensively research this issue, and I feel very sure that we would come up with the decision that would best serve the community.
April, we're going to start with you on this question. What do you think your biggest challenge will be if elected to the school board?
That's a good question. Biggest challenge. I think, really honestly, it's always a challenge wanting to become a school board member. I think I'd rather look at it as what successes I can gain from being a school board member and being able to give back to the community and being a former educator and now working, with the job I currently am at. I think there's always going to be challenges in regards to what's best for our students. That's why there are always challenges with being a school board member. it's that our students are first, and a lot of us are parents, and we're very passionate about how we feel about things, and being able to find that middle ground and have productive conversations with each other and be able to do our research and know the data in order for us to make those informed decisions ultimately.
Thank you. Melissa? Biggest challenge.
Although I've done some research and attended some meetings and kind of did a little bit of legwork there, I know that I didn't even begin to touch the surface on everything that goes on in the school board. So possibly initially it's that data dump that I'm gonna have to catch up on, but that's okay. Trying to figure out the resources that are available to me and to the school board and to the school, and making sure that those are all clear cut. And also making sure that I can contribute on a positive, or a positive objective standpoint. That's gonna be a good thing. I'm sorry, I don't see that as a challenge. I think that's probably what I'm gonna bring to the table, I'm sorry, is that objective outlook. So just trying to catch up on everything, because I know there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So.
Thanks. Mason?
Well, some of the challenges that I see facing not only myself, but certainly members of the board is just going to be change, right? We're going in through. No one likes change. Our kids don't like change, right? We're just creatures of habit, and we're constantly doing things the same way, or maybe we're tweaking something the same way. And so I think that's going to be a challenge. One of the things that I want to bring to this school district is thinking outside the box, thinking of a new way of doing things, bringing different ideas, and I think that in itself brings a unique challenge. Another thing that I think is going to be challenging is I think there's room for improvement in some of our policies in some of our district, in some of our buildings. Our social media policy I think needs to be modernized, and I think that's going to be bringing some additional challenges with that. I'm not afraid to tackle the big issues, but I know that I can't do it myself. And of course, anytime you bring those things up, you're going to get attention, and that's going to be something that I'm willing to do. I'm willing to do it for our kids and for our staff and stuff. So, I think those are going to be the biggest challenges. And of course, that's not even saying with all the other budgetary challenges that face us, and it's hard to make everyone happy when it comes to the dollars and cents, but you got to do the best you can. And I think it's going to be challenging, but it's going to be very rewarding. So I'm excited about the opportunity.
Thank you. Amy, biggest challenge?
So I think I sit a little differently because I am an incumbent, and 3 years ago, I sat in my home doing this, right? Because we weren't allowed to be together. And so as we were elected and brought onto the board, one of the challenges that I faced as that new member was really onboarding. We did not have good onboarding. I'm all about process improvement and those kind of things, standardized aspects related to that. So that is something we have created. Again, would it need to be tweaked? Absolutely, right? There's things we'll go, oh, that would be nice to know, or things we need to add. So to me, that would be my biggest challenge, probably expectations for myself if I was elected. How do I be a mentor for or have mentors for new members? Really looking also as a new person coming in, or even as a community member, right? We have, I think somebody said this early, we have the 30,000 foot level view when we are not sitting in the chair on the nights of the meetings that go to 1 a.m., right? I mean, we have to know that those are expectations and things that will occur. So really having people understand, I wish I would have had, I learned from MSBA conferences as well. There was a book called The Governance Core that really I would recommend to anybody that is actually elected. I'm happy to share that with anybody. It honestly puts in front of the folks who are elected what the roles and responsibilities are for a new member. And so again, the expectations of seeing how I came in and where there may have been shortfalls, how to fill that gap. And again, really making sure I'm holding myself accountable so that experience is better for someone new coming in.
Karen, biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is dealing with the excessive and rapid growth in the district. while still maintaining the excellence that we've had in our district for years. And I think that, I mean, I think that's just the hardest thing, that we want to also keep the smaller town feel that we have here, even though our numbers grow, because I think that's one of the things that's really attractive about our district is that, you know, I mean, I grew up in St. Louis, went to a very large school. I did not want that for my children because, you know, you were just a number, and, you know, you could come into the school and be in an awful mood and no one would ever know. And my experience with my children at Southern Boone is that if something was wrong, someone knew about it. And, you know, so as we grow, I think that's a really important thing to keep in our district. So I think that the hardest thing will be to deal with the growth, both financially and also to keep the same feel and what makes us Southern Boone.
Great.
Sure. I think, you know, going into this, I don't see a lot of challenges. I see lots of opportunity. I see, you know, just opportunity, great opportunities. However, you know, specifically looking at what challenges we'll have as potential members of the board, you know, there's only a finite amount of money, of resources, but there's unlimited wants and needs. And so juggling that to make the greatest impact for our kids, and what that means and what that looks like, what's that defined, you know, that's a collaborative process that's the journey that as a board member will have to experience with the administration and the community. So you know, being aware of what needs are within our community, being aware of you know, potential solutions, and being able to stick to our priorities. I think that's going to be a challenge. We want to address everything, we want to do everything great, but you know, the reality is there's only so much you can do, you know, at any given time. And so just working together. I feel the more heads together, the stronger the product and the better for our kids. So that's how I look at that.
All right, we're going to wrap things up with the final question. And Melissa, we'll start with you. Your opportunity to tell the folks at home why you're running for school board and why they should vote for you.
Well, as I said in the beginning, when I introduced myself, I feel like I am a good person to ask you to help me have a seat on the school board. I feel like I can bring to the school board some of that objective perspective. I bring payroll and HR experience, so looking through some HR elements here. I feel I had the opportunity to attend the school board workshop that was put on a few months ago from the school, and that gave me a really good look at what is involved with the school board, what to expect, and I feel like it's my opportunity to help the school continue on their growth path and to continue with the goals that they're setting forth. I also had the opportunity to sit on the school improvement plan for the next couple years, and it was amazing to sit with all those people in that class, in that room, and talk about what the school's strengths and the weaknesses are, and putting some goals in there, and putting some timeframes in there. It was just amazing, and I can't wait to be a bigger part of it.
Just thank you for the opportunity for all of us to get together and discuss these important issues. We've got a lot. There's a lot on the plates of our administrators, our school board, and so I appreciate the opportunity. I'm running for school board because I want to give a voice to people that normally don't have one, because you know, we get adults in the room and we talk a lot about what's good for our kids. You know, obviously there's state and federal guidelines and those types of things that you must make sure that those get in. But really, I wanted to get into it, and especially now, I think there's a real opportunity with my voice and with hopefully with some of you folks to team up and look at the challenges that our students are facing. You behind the scenes in the classroom, outside the household. It's affecting their education. And I think we have a real opportunity to tackle those things head on. And it's very important to our students. There's some, I don't want to continue to grow and be like one of our larger schools. We've all heard those horror stories, and I don't want that to happen here. But as we continue to grow, we're going to be facing those types of challenges. With my marketing background and those types of things, I feel like I can help recruit and get people excited about all the fun and exciting things happening, but at the same time making sure we're educating our public and just giving an opportunity to give a voice to our kids, because at the end of the day, we talked about it. It's why we do what we do, and at the same time we need to be responsible for those that provide the resources for the school district. It's super important, and I look forward to serving with you all on the board.
So why am I running
Again.
again? Right, I'm the only one doing that, but really initially, even when I ran 3 years ago, really was to give back to the community. Wanted to be involved from that aspect. Again, my husband has been long-term, even though he hasn't lived here his whole life, but everybody knows who he is. I can't go anywhere without him knowing someone. But really, again, bringing what I can professionally to the board. I feel like I've done that over the last 3 years from the finance perspective. Again, kind of that being my passion, given my background. I'm inquisitive, not afraid to ask the hard questions or to help make the hard decisions. I feel I've been collaborative with this current board members, have great relationships with those folks. Really want to continue the path of process improvement. I brought that up a couple of times as well, and how we can standardize our processes so that not only myself, I leave things better than when I started, but the team that I work with also being able to say that we've made an improvement and brought things forward that will enhance our school district and the impact to our children.
Well, when I ran for board 20 years ago, my platform was that I had a child in every building, because I did. I had a child in every building. But now my platform is I have a child in no building. So I cannot possibly be accused of having any bias for any of the schools. So I feel like I'm in a position to care about all the kids, and I do truly care about all the kids. I have no hidden agenda. My only goal is to help the district. I feel like my prior experience will allow me to be of immediate assistance with minimal adjustment. 18 years should have taught me something. I mean, I'm not denying that there's going to be some new things. I know things have changed, but I think it'll take me minimal time to get on board. I'm fully aware of the time commitment and general expectations of board members, and I'm ready to meet the challenge head on. I also want to give back to the community that has been just such a wonderful place for me to raise my family. And as I mentioned a little bit before, as an attorney for over 30 years, owning my own business, I'm familiar with reading and interpreting policy, do that every day. I fully understand the ethical obligations of board members and also the importance of confidentiality. So, I'm here to help. I think I can be of assistance, and I would just be so pleased and proud to be part of the Southern Boone County Board of Education again.
Sure. No, I think it's outstanding that our voters have such a great choice in people. We've, truly, as what was mentioned, Mason, we're all in it for the kids. We're all in it for our community. And so, I feel my experience as a superintendent with this district gives me insight and passion about maintaining what's best for kids and taking a look at the budget and being understanding of what goes into that and what resources are out there with the state, and just making sure that Southern Boone has the best and the strongest academic programs for our kids, and that we continue to meet the needs of our kids, whatever that may be, and not just the gifted kiddos, but the kiddos who need us the most with special needs. And so that's my passion. Public service is another passion. I'm, invested in this community. I am a part of so many things in the community, and just want to continue to give back, and hope I can influence the future and really make a difference.
April.
Well, first, I'm a mom with kids here in Ashland, and I'm really invested because of that. I mean, I have both my kids here. We settled here 7 years ago, and my kids are so happy here. We're involved in a lot of events and sports, and I love being in their schools and seeing what they're learning and supporting their learning and supporting the teachers. I really strongly feel that relationships are important, and this is just another step in my personal growth, as well as I feel like after teaching in this community for several years that I'm really invested in the district and the priority of our students coming first. I've built relationships with teachers and administrators in several of the buildings, and it goes back to the parents and students that I've had. I feel like I've had a lot of positive relationships with them over the years, and I know I didn't mention it very much, but with my new position, I do deal with a fairly large budget, so I am familiar with some of those aspects of finance and budget. I do have to run that for my grant, I'm a fellow educator, and I have poured my life into education and serving students and working with parents in our communities. And I think that I would be a valuable asset with that, but also my current position in my job and that focus on literacy and those student outcomes, I feel would make me a valuable person. Thank you so much.
All right, that concludes this year's candidate forum for the Southern Boone School Board of Education. Just to recap, voters will have the opportunity to vote for 3 candidates for a 3-year term. We do have 7 candidates on the ballot this year. Again, Amy Begman, Karen Kraus-Bill, Christopher Felmley, April Giorgetti, Melissa Karatka, Richard Martin, who was unable to be here tonight, and then Mason Neff. And I want to thank you all for your time. I think you did a wonderful job. Appreciate you all spending Monday night with me here. And this has been recorded. It's going to be on the link available on the Chamber's website at southernboonechamber.com. You can also view it anytime on through YouTube, through the city's YouTube channel, and it's posted on the Chamber's Facebook page and the city website. I hope we've provided you all at home with some good insights into the candidates tonight, both the school board and the city candidates. And that will do it for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
I hope everybody has a good night.
Thank
Good luck this
you.
election. Yep.
Thank you so much.